Sometimes the best revenge is serving champagne with a smile, especially when you own the glasses it's being served in. Let me tell you how I ended up working as a maid at my sister's wedding, in my own luxury venue. I'm Rachel Morgan, 35, and this is the story of how my sister's attempt to humiliate me at her wedding backfired in the most spectacular way possible. Growing up, my sister Victoria was always the princess of the family, 2 years younger than me. She somehow managed to be the center of attention in every situation. While I was the practical one who worked summer jobs and saved money, Victoria was busy planning her dream wedding, at age 12. When I get married, she'd announce at dinner, it'll be at the Grand Rose Manor, only the best for me. The Grand Rose Manor was our city's most prestigious wedding venue, a stunning Victorian mansion with perfectly manicured gardens and a reputation for hosting only the most exclusive events. Back then, it was owned by the Thompson family, and getting a booking there was nearly impossible unless you had the right connections and deep pockets. Our parents indulged Victoria's every whim, while I was told to be more realistic about my ambitions. Focus on getting a stable job, our mother would say. Not everyone can be as special as Victoria. So I did exactly that. I got a job. Several, actually. Starting at 16, I worked every position I could at various hotels and event venues, from housekeeping to serving, from front desk to event planning. I learned every aspect of the hospitality industry from the ground up. Victoria, meanwhile, floated through life on our parents' dime, changing college majors as often as she changed nail colors. Rachel's so boring, she'd tell her friends loud enough for me to hear. All she does is work at those hotels like a maid. What they didn't know was that I was building something. Every job taught me something new. Every position added to my understanding of how to run a successful venue. More importantly, I was saving every penny I could. Then came the opportunity of a lifetime. The Thompson family announced they were selling the Grand Rose Manor. The asking price was astronomical, but I had been preparing for something like this without even knowing it. My years of saving, combined with my excellent credit and solid business plan, helped me secure the financing I needed. The day I signed the papers making me the new owner of Grand Rose Manor was the proudest moment of my life. I kept the purchase quiet. The official documents listed my company, Morgan Hospitality Group, as the owner, and I maintained the venue's stellar reputation while modernizing its operations. Victoria, of course, knew nothing about this. She was too busy with her new fiancé, James, a junior partner at a law firm who seemed as impressed with himself as she was. Then came the day she announced her engagement at a family dinner. "James and I are getting married," she squealed, flashing her diamond ring. "And guess what? We got a booking at the Grand Rose Manor." Our parents gasped in delight. I took a sip of wine to hide my smile. "How did you manage that?" our mother asked. "It's nearly impossible to get a date there." "James has connections," Victoria preened, "and we're paying extra to have the whole place to ourselves for the entire weekend." I nodded politely, knowing exactly how much that would cost. Victoria then turned to me, her smile turning sharp. "Of course, Rachel, you'll be invited." She paused for effect. "If you agree to help out with the staff, it seems fitting, given your experience." Our parents shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. They never did when Victoria was being cruel. "You can only attend if you help the staff," she sneered. "It's perfect, really. You already know how to serve drinks and clean up after real guests." I could have revealed everything right then, but sometimes, the longer path is more satisfying. "Of course," I said mildly, "I'd be happy to help." Victoria looked almost disappointed by my easy acquiescence. She'd clearly been hoping for tears or protests. The months leading up to the wedding were a master class in bridezilla behavior. Victoria made countless demands for changes to the venue, each one more extravagant than the last. She never dealt directly with management, sending everything through her wedding planner, who in turn worked with the venue's manager, who reported directly to me. Mrs. Morgan, my manager, Michael, would call, barely containing his amusement. "Your sister is now demanding we repaint the grand ballroom in ballet slipper pink to match her bridesmaids' dresses. Tell her it's a historical building and we can't alter the original features," I'd reply, enjoying the irony. The day of the wedding arrived, and I showed up early, dressed in the staff uniform as requested. Victoria was already in full meltdown mode. "The flowers are the wrong shade of pink," she screamed at her wedding planner, "and the champagne isn't the expensive brand I demanded." I knew for a fact that both the flowers and champagne were exactly what she'd ordered. I'd checked the invoices myself. "The staff here is incompetent," she raged, then spotted me. "Oh good, at least you're where you belong, with the help." I spent the next few hours serving drinks, clearing plates, and watching my sister's perfect day unfold. The ceremony went smoothly, though Victoria nearly had a fit when one of her bridesmaid's shoes squeaked on the marble floor. During the reception, I moved efficiently through the crowd with trays of champagne, accepting tips from guests who had no idea I owned the building they were standing in. Victoria made a point of being especially demanding whenever I was nearby. "Rachel, more champagne for my table," she'd call out imperiously. "Try not to spill it this time, though I know serving properly is probably beyond your capabilities." As midnight approached, Victoria was holding court at the main table, loudly telling her friends how sad it was that her sister never amounted to anything more than a server. That's when Michael, right on cue, approached the microphone we used for announcements. "Excuse me, everyone," he said clearly. "Madam Owner, shall we begin closing procedures for the evening?" The room fell silent. Victoria looked around, probably wondering which of her wealthy guests was the owner. Michael walked directly to me. "Mrs. Morgan, your call on closing time." I handed my serving tray to a nearby staff member and straightened my uniform jacket. "Yes, Michael, let's begin wrapping up." The bride dropped her glass. The sound of shattering crystal was followed by complete silence. Victoria's face had gone from confused to horrified as realization dawned. What is this?" she stammered. "Oh," I said casually, "did I forget to mention? I own the Grand Rose Manor, have for about 3 years now. Thanks for choosing us for your special day. Your final payment cleared beautifully, by the way." James, who had been reaching for his champagne, knocked over his glass. Our parents sat frozen, mouths agape. "This is impossible," Victoria whispered. "You're a maid." "Actually, I'm a successful business owner who chose to honor her sister's peculiar request to work as staff at her wedding, in my own venue, which you paid quite a premium to book exclusively." The silence was broken by someone in the back of the room starting to laugh. Soon, others joined in, and Victoria's face turned as pink as her bridesmaids' dresses. You planned this," she accused, standing up so quickly her chair fell backward. "You deliberately humiliated me at my own wedding." "No, Victoria," I said calmly, "you did that all on your own. I simply provided excellent service, as we always do at the Grand Rose Manor." Our mother found her voice first. "Rachel, why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me?" I asked. "You've spent years agreeing with Victoria that I was nothing more than a maid. When I tried to tell you about my business plans, you told me to be more realistic." Our father, looking years older suddenly, slumped in his chair. "We were wrong." Victoria wasn't ready to concede. "This is my wedding. You can't just..." "Can't what?" I interrupted. "Provide the exact services you requested? Fulfill every demand you made? Work as staff because you insisted it was the only way I could attend my own sister's wedding?" The wedding planner, who had been watching everything unfold with wide eyes, chose that moment to approach Victoria. "Mrs. Peterson, should we proceed with the late-night snack service as planned?" Victoria stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Her new husband, James, had the good sense to look embarrassed by the whole situation. "Yes," I answered for her. "Please proceed with all services as contracted. This is still my sister's wedding, and the Grand Rose Manor always delivers excellence." The next hour was deliciously awkward. Victoria sat at her table, barely touching her food, while guests whispered and pointed. Some even came up to congratulate me, not on being part of the wedding, but on owning such a prestigious venue. "I always wondered who bought this place," one of James's law partners said enthusiastically. "The improvements you've made while maintaining its historic character are brilliant." Victoria looked like she was sucking on a lemon every time someone praised the venue, which, as I knew from experience, happened constantly. The Grand Rose Manor was, after all, the most sought-after wedding venue in the city. As the evening wound down, I found myself face to face with our parents. My mother's eyes were red from crying, and my father couldn't quite meet my gaze. "All those years," my mother said softly, "when you were working those jobs, you were learning the business?" I nodded. Every position taught me something valuable. While Victoria was planning her dream wedding, I was planning my dream business. "And we never saw it," my father added. "We were so focused on Victoria." I finished for him. "I know, you always were." Victoria and James left shortly after, their grand exit somewhat diminished by the evening's revelations. She didn't say goodbye, but James made a point of shaking my hand. "I had no idea," he said quietly. "For what it's worth, I'm impressed, and a little ashamed." "Don't be," I replied. "Just maybe remind my sister that kindness costs nothing." but cruelty can be very expensive. He nodded, understanding the subtle reference to the premium rates they'd paid for their wedding package. After the last guest left, I found myself in the grand ballroom with Michael and the rest of my staff. They'd all played their parts perfectly, maintaining professionalism while knowing exactly who I was. "Mrs. Morgan," Michael said with a grin, "that was the most entertaining wedding we've hosted yet." I looked around at the venue I'd worked so hard to own, at the staff who had helped me maintain my cover, and at the excellence we delivered even to those who'd tried to diminish us. "Well," I said, "we do pride ourselves on providing memorable experiences." The aftermath of the wedding was interesting, to say the least. Victoria didn't speak to me for months, which was actually quite peaceful. Our parents, on the other hand, suddenly wanted to know everything about my business. "But how did you manage to buy it?" my mother asked over coffee one day. I explained about the years of saving, the business plan, the loans, and the investors who believed in my vision. Her eyes widened with each detail. "All that time," she whispered, "we thought you were just a maid?" I finished. "Maybe that's the problem. You and Dad never asked what I was really doing, you just assumed." The Grand Rose Manor's reputation only grew after Victoria's wedding. Somehow, the story of the owner working as staff at her own sister's wedding got out, and our bookings increased. People loved the idea of an owner who understood every aspect of the business, who had worked her way up from the ground floor. Victoria eventually broke her silence, though not in the way anyone expected. She showed up at my office 6 months after the wedding, looking uncomfortable. "I need a job," she said without preamble. I raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me? James and we're having some financial difficulties, and I thought, since you own this place." "You thought what?" I asked. "That after treating me like a servant at your wedding, you could just walk in and demand a management position?" She had the grace to look embarrassed. "I know I was awful. I've always been awful to you, but I'm asking for a chance to learn, like you did." I considered her request carefully. "You know, any position we have available would be entry-level, right? Probably starting in housekeeping or service?" "Like a maid?" she asked, and for the first time, there was no sneer in her voice. "Yes," I confirmed, "like a maid, the same position I started in, learning every aspect of this business from the ground up." Victoria took a deep breath. "Okay, I'll do it." And surprisingly, she did. Victoria started working at the Grand Rose Manor as a member of the housekeeping staff. It wasn't easy for her. Years of being the princess had left her unprepared for real work. But something unexpected happened. She started to change. "I had no idea how much work goes into making everything perfect for these weddings," she admitted one day, after helping to turn over a room for the next event. "All those years, I just thought it happened by magic." Watching my sister learn the value of hard work was surprisingly satisfying. She struggled at first, and used to being on her feet all day, and used to taking orders instead of giving them, but she persevered. Our parents were shocked when they found out Victoria was working as housekeeping staff. "But surely Rachel could give you a better position," our mother protested. "No," Victoria surprised us all by saying, "I need to earn it," like she did. Over the next year, Victoria worked her way through various positions at the manor. She learned every aspect of the business, just as I had. More importantly, she learned humility. The true test came when she had to work another wedding where the bride was just as demanding as she had been. I watched from my office as Victoria handled the situation with grace and professionalism. "The flowers aren't exactly what I ordered," the bride was complaining. "I understand," Victoria said calmly. "Let me check the order details and see how we can make this perfect for you." Later, I overheard her telling a new staff member, "I used to be that bride. Trust me, the best response is kindness and professionalism." 2 years after her own wedding, Victoria had worked her way up to event coordinator. She earned every promotion through hard work and dedication, not through our relationship. The staff, who initially were wary of her given our history, came to respect her. One evening, after a particularly successful event, Victoria came to my office. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what?" "For letting me be awful to you at my wedding, for letting me work here when I didn't deserve it, for teaching me what real success looks like." I smiled. "You know, the Grand Rose Manor has always been about making dreams come true, even if sometimes those dreams look different than we expected." Victoria laughed. "My dream used to be having the perfect wedding here. Now my dream is helping other brides have their perfect day, without being a bridezilla like I was." The Grand Rose Manor continues to be the city's premier wedding venue. Victoria and I work together now, each bringing our own strengths to the business. She understands the brides in a way I never did, having been one herself, while I handle the business side of things. Our parents often visit, marveling at how their daughters turned out. "We never imagined you two would end up working together," our mother said recently. "Sometimes," I replied, "the best partnerships come from unexpected places. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's showing people their own reflection until they decide to change the image they see." As for me, I still occasionally put on a uniform and help serve at events, not because anyone makes me, but because I never want to forget where I started and how far I've come. After all, there's no shame in being a maid when you own the manor.